Welcome to this tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how to use API testbase to test the JMS request reply pattern step by step without writing code. Let's get started. Here is the illustration of the request reply pattern. The request reply pattern is a messaging pattern where a client sends a request message to a service and waits for a reply message from the service in an asynchronous way. The sequence is like this. The client sends a message to a request queue. The message is then picked up by the service. The service processes the request message and sends a reply message to the reply queue. The reply message is then picked up by the client for processing. The key point here is that the request message and reply message have the same JMS correlation ID header. In the real world, thousands of messages could flow back and forth constantly between the client and the service. Without a unique identifier, it would be difficult to determine which reply corresponds to which request. The JMS correlation ID header solves this problem by acting as a unique identifier that helps match a reply to its originating request. Of course, you can do the testing by writing code in Java or another programming language. But using API testbase can save you a lot of time and, more importantly, provide you with a pleasant experience. Now let's do some setup to prepare for the testing. Firstly, please ensure API testbase is installed and started on your machine. Check out the link in the video description below for how to do it. Secondly, we need to spin up an ActiveMQ instance and a JMS application. To do that, we'll open the JMS application source repository. Let's check the prerequisites. If you haven't done it, install and start Docker Desktop on your machine. Then download the docker compose.yaml file. Open a terminal window. We'll use the Docker Desktop built-in terminal. Change directory to the Downloads folder. The Downloads folder is on the D drive on my machine. Then we run the command from the repository to spin up the resources. It takes some time depending on your network speed. As we can see, a Docker project, sample JMS services, is started, which contains a running ActiveMQ container and a running JMS application container. Now let's go to the ActiveMQ web console to have a check. Enter the default username and password admin. Then we navigate to the queues view. We can see that there is one queue here, echo.in. This is the request queue that we are going to use to test the request reply pattern. This queue was dynamically created by the JMS application when the application was started, and it is being listened to by the application. What the JMS application does is that when we send a message to the echo.in queue, the application will pick it up and send the reply message to the echo.out queue with the same payload and JMS correlation ID header as the request message. The echo.out queue doesn't exist yet, but it will be dynamically created when the first message arrives in it. This is the feature of ActiveMQ. Now we have finished the setup. It's time for our test. To do that, we need to create a JMS request in API test space. Right-click in the left side pane and select New Request, JMS. We give it a name and press Enter to create it. Then we populate the request fields. For the endpoint, we set the JMS provider as ActiveMQ. Then we enter the host name and port number. Enter the queue name and select the send action. Then we paste in the message body. What this JMS request does is to send the message to the echo.in queue, which is the request queue in our test scenario. For demonstration purposes, we don't check the also receive option for now, which means the JMS request doesn't receive any message. Shortly, you'll see why we do this. Click the Do button to send out the message to the echo.in queue. Now let's go and check the ActiveMQ web console. Refresh the page, and we can see the reply queue. That is echo.out. Click the queue name. We've got one message, which is the reply message. We are able to see the reply message here because we didn't check the also receive option in the JMS request. And there was no other application which listened to the reply queue. So the reply message just stays in the reply queue for us to view. Open the message, and we can see its content. This is the request message we just sent. We have tested the request part of the request reply pattern. Now let's go further to test the complete request reply pattern. In the JMS request we just created, check the also receive option and set the reply queue name. So that the JMS request not only sends a message to the request queue, but also receives a message from the reply queue. We also changed the message body a bit to differentiate from the previous message. As we mentioned previously, the key point in the request reply pattern is to use the JMS correlation ID header to correlate the request and reply messages. Before setting the JMS correlation ID header in the request message, we first go to the Properties tab. Create a property. With an expression value like this. It means that the property value will be a dynamically generated UUID when running the JMS request. If you are interested in more details about using expressions in API test space, please check out the link in the video description. You can use any name for the property. Here I am using the name correlation ID. The purpose of creating a property here is to reuse the same generated UUID value in more than one location in a JMS request. Now we go to the request message header tab. And use the correlation ID property to set the JMS correlation ID header value. It means the JMS correlation ID header in the request message will come from the correlation ID property, which will be a dynamically generated UUID. Then we set the reply message selector field like this. It means the JMS request will only receive the specific reply message, which has the same JMS correlation ID header as that in the request message, because we are reusing the same property here. Finally, let's click the Do button to try things out. Here we go. Our second request message has been sent, and a corresponding reply message has been received. We can see that the reply message body is the same as the request message body. If we go to the reply message header tab, we can see it has a JMS correlation ID header. To see what JMS correlation ID header value was generated in the request message, just hover mouse over the property reference in the reply message selector field. If we copy the value and search it in the browser, we can see that the reply JMS correlation ID header is the same as that of the request. If we go to the ActiveMQ web console and go back to the echo.out queue, we can see that there is still one message in this reply queue. Open the message and we can see that it is still article 1, which was already there before our second run of the JMS request. This message was not received by our JMS request, even though it was in the reply queue earlier. This is because it didn't have a JMS correlation ID header, so it was not watched by our JMS request. We have finished testing the request reply pattern. As we can see, with some easy steps, we can test the JMS request reply pattern using API test base without writing code. If you haven't, give it a try by yourself and let me know your thoughts by leaving a comment down below. Thanks for watching.